Your place? No.
Okay, great.
Okay. And we're live. Thank you, Lynn. Welcome, everyone, to the sixth workshop for the AEZ Boost Hackathon, hosted by DoraHacks and Atom Accelerator DAO, the first global hackathon specifically tailored towards Cosmos Hub and Atom Economic Zone developers. We're very excited to have the opportunity to present another workshop series for everyone who's participating or just audience members who are interested in Cosmos. Today, we have a very special guest, Alex from Delphi Digital, who will be presenting a workshop on the 7 steps to go from a hackathon project to VC-funded startup. I think that this workshop will be very valuable for many of the developers that are participating in this hackathon, as one of the most important questions many of you, I'm sure, have is how can I make sure if I submit an all-star project to a hackathon that I'm able to receive continuation funding? What are some of the tips of the trade I need to learn if I want to bring my project to full production, and the next steps beyond just submitting a simple hack for a hackathon? How do I actually build out my project if I want to, and how do I receive some funding for it? So we've got one of the best in the industry here, Alex from Delphi, who has eons of experience in this and will be able to answer all of your questions, I'm sure. He also has a very exciting presentation for all of you in the audience. And if any point during this workshop, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to ask them directly in the chat. I can see them all here. You can also reach out to me directly on Telegram. My handle is @BrianDora. And of course, you can also connect directly with DoraHacks on Telegram @DoraHacksOfficial, as well as Twitter and Discord if you have any questions. And I'm sure Alex feels the same way. So without further ado, thanks again for everyone being here. And Alex, I'd love to welcome you to the stage. Would be great if you could just provide a brief introduction about yourself, and then we can get into the workshop.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. So as Brian mentioned, I'm going to be walking you through what I think are the 7 key steps to go from your hackathon demo to becoming a VC-funded startup. And this includes everything from reviewing product strategy, go-to-market strategy, corporate strategy, your tech strategy, and of course, the all-important fundraising and investor relations strategy. In terms of background, I've been an institutional investor for about 2 years now. Prior to that, I advised institutional investors. I had my own conference advisory company where I advised over 100 billion in assets under management. I've been in crypto for about 6 years now. And so I've seen the highs, I've seen the lows, and everything in between. I've done a lot of work with non-crypto startups as well, and including having my own. And so, these principles that I'm going to convey to you today are timeless. These are things that you need to focus on because you can't shy away from them. If you shy away from them, you will have some troubles. And when we're talking about startups, the most important thing to remember is that you want to give yourself the best chance possible for success, because every day something new happens, which just kind of compounds any potential problems you could have or compounds any potential success you can have. So we want to focus everything on that success bucket and minimizing the problems bucket. So with that being said, I'm going to just launch right in. Feel free to ask questions. Brian will be relaying them to me, and so we will get to them in short order. Thank you. All right. So first, you need to know, what are the steps, right? The first step is you need to make a decision. You're going, do you actually want to be an entrepreneur, or are you really just looking for another job, right? Like that's very critical. And once you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur and you're willing to give what an entrepreneur has to give, which is much more than what a corporate employee has to give, then you can go ahead and you can make your strategy. You can create your strategy. And this strategy is multifaceted and multi-layered. After that, you have to start managing inbound interest, because there will be inbound interest. And then you have to build, you have to incorporate, you have to fundraise, and of course, the all-important grow. So like I mentioned, when you are finishing the hackathon and deciding whether or not you want to take on external capital, you need to make a decision. Do you want to continue down this path? And this path being creating a venture-backed startup and dedicate at least 5 years of your life to it? Why or why not? Are you ready to grow this at hyper speed? What are your goals in life? Do you just kind of want a steady paycheck and to work on interesting work from the hours of 9 to 6 or 9 to 7? Or do you have something, a specific goal, and that you are willing to pursue that relentlessly? Because if so, then the startup life is for you. And so start doing some scenario analysis. What would this idea look like with an extra 4 or 5 engineers, a designer, a partnerships lead, and a biz ops staffer? What would it look like with 20 people? How will this project, ask yourself, how will this project win the hearts and minds of its target market? And then you really need to ask yourself one super important question. How will my points of differentiation not only separate me from my competition, but give me a sustainable competitive advantage? And you need to kind of ignore everyone and everything until you've made your decision, until you've written out pen and paper the answer to some of these questions. When I say pen and paper, because writing is thinking. And so I think that when we write, especially with pen on paper, that our process becomes very clear. We slow down, we analyze everything, and we take things seriously. So just in the beginning, I'm already giving you some work, which is, are you ready to continue down this path and to have to conform to like what is needed to create a successful VC-backed startup? Next, you need to create a strategy. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. If you want to go far, you need to have a strategy. And I think there's many types of strategy, right? We've got corporate, we've got product, marketing, tech, operations, fundraising, others as well. But these are the ones that we're going to focus on today. I think the two most important ones for startups are corporate and product strategy. And I have marketing in parentheses because when you're very, very early, product and marketing are basically the same thing, followed closely by fundraising strategy. And the reason I have this castle, this image of a castle with a moat around it, is you need to build a moat between you and your competitors. And you need to find a spot in your industry where you can insert a wedge and widen that wedge to increase your corporate profits or your protocol's profits. So that's super important. And you could say, well, Alex, you've mentioned all these strategies. What do they entail? So I create this slide, right, for you guys to have some introductory questions that can help you when you're creating your strategy, right? So corporate, this is the overarching umbrella under which everything else sits, right? How are we different? How do our differences encourage usage or purchases? Are we leaning into our core strengths or our technology's core strengths? You would be surprised how critical these questions are. And you would be surprised at how few people have ever thought about that. So I think you'd start with that bubble. Next, marketing. How do we capture mind share? And mind share is super important because from mind share comes market share. So you can never have market share if people don't know about your product. And if you remember that we've got, as humans, we've all got a bunch of stuff going on. Maybe someone has kids, maybe someone has their own startup, maybe someone's in school, maybe someone, works a job, blah, blah, blah. They've got a lot of things going on. They've got hobbies. And you need to be able to capture as much share in their mind as possible. You need to be able to live in their mind. Once you've done that, then, their purchase, getting a purchase from them is much more likely, or usage, much more likely. And so it's like, okay, so how do we enter the market, right? Where on the internet are our users? And crypto is an internet-first technology, right? So you really need to know where your users are on the internet, how to reach them, and how to convert them to your product or protocol. Fundraising. Okay, so everyone knows they need money, but most people only think about how they're going to spend it. But before you can think about how you're going to spend it, you need to think about why do you need money? Right, and from that why will come a how, and from that how will come the answer to like the solutions, like your KPIs. What are these core deficiencies or gaps or growth opportunities that the fundraising will fix? And this is super important. Every investor wants to know the source and use of funds, and the use of funds. People want to know why are you putting the money to these uses? And if you don't have an answer for that, that just shows that like you don't really know what you're doing, right? You're just kind of feeling your way through. You're not prepared for the when the push comes to shove. So another good question is, what are comparable companies being valued at? And in crypto, this changes every 3 months, right? Because we have so much volatility. So the fundraisers from 6 months ago, which is usually what you see in the press, by the way, the crypto press, the financial press, these guys usually report on raises that were completed 3, 6, 9 months ago, and they don't say that in the articles, but that's the facts. So those can be outdated data, right? And then you have to ask yourself a question: whom do I want on my cap table and why? And this is going to be a mix of, okay, I want some people just for their money, and I want some people because they're going to be a super value add, or I want some people because of their brand, I want some people because of their strategy, some people because of their connections. So really sit down and say, why are these people on my cap table, or whom do I want and why? Now hiring. Okay, so what can you do with 4 more engineers, right? I asked you this question before. Do some scenario analysis. What can we do with 4 more engineers, with 1 business operations person, with a marketing person? Like, how would my life change? How would this company change? What would happen if we had 20 more engineers? What if we had 1 or 2 business operations people? What if we had 1 or 2 marketers? What if we had a partnerships lead? Like, what could you do with all that? And you should be building your fundraisers around the answers to these questions, right? Because these get back to the why. These get back to the core deficiencies, the gaps, and the growth opportunities that fundraising fixes. Okay, now tech. Okay, so a lot of people are like, oh, we're technologists. We don't, of course you've got a tech strategy. I don't think most people do, right? I think that most people are just acting. And so you need to sit down and say, how does your tech stack enable you or encourage you to innovate in a novel way? Then you need to ask yourself, how does your tech stack limit your operational efficiency? So the core question when you're creating a strategy is, what trade-offs will one decision make over another? And so this comes to tech. And I'm going to give you an example, and it's very boomerish, but and to you today it's obvious, but that's why I'm giving it to you, because you can see the answer today. So 23, 24 years ago, there's a hotel company here in the US called Wyndham, and you may or may not know about it. At the time, it had approximately 1% of market share. And the executives at Wyndham were thinking to themselves, how do we increase our market share? Should we do some blitzy marketing campaign? Should we, just fundraise and really try to grow, and maybe they'll come after we grow and put up more hotels? And so, you know what? We're going to create a strategy focused around having the best tech stack. We think that our tech stack will enable us to double down on our core mission and vision, which is to provide the best customer service for our hotel guests. And you can say to yourself, okay, how would technology in the year of 1999 or the year 2000 improve customer service? And so what they did is they changed from having all their servers on-prem to a cloud infrastructure. You could say, okay, cloud is like normal, this is what we all do, but rewind your clock 23 years ago. Cloud was nowhere to be seen. So these guys went out on a limb, tried a new type of data architecture, and because of that, they were able to, the staff at every hotel was able to understand every customer's preferences whenever they visit a different location. So previously or prior, people at the hotel only knew the customers at their hotel. But if that customer went to a different hotel in a different location, that customer was not getting the same level of customer service. And so for this reason, they were able to increase their customer service because they changed their tech stack. And that's huge. So I need you guys to think about, how is my tech stack enabling me to innovate in a novel way? Right. And if your answer to this, if your answer to your corporate questions is that, we don't really have any differences that encourage usage or purchases, our tech stack is not enabling us or encouraging us to innovate in a novel way, we have, it's just a pure marketing play, then that's fine. But you need to be aware of that. And you need to be aware that there's many VCs who are not going to want to invest into that, right? So just be aware of that and be ready for that. Now we're going to talk about token strategy, right? So why do people want my token? What will it do? How will value accrue to it? Is it an actual token where, like, again, actual meaning like something that people use and that accrues value, or is it just something that kind of reflects my protocol's brand? And these are all very important questions to ask for when you're, fundraising from crypto VCs. And so, yes, while it's important to have a product or protocol that has organic usage, it's also important to have good tokenomics. So I borrowed this market entry framework from a consulting handbook called Hacking the Case. And I use it here because even though it's Web 2 in nature, everything holds true in a token economy. And I put this here as a foil to people's beliefs that you don't need to think about the industry or the market in Web3. You totally do. These are principles that will always be true about business, basically for the rest of eternity, right? If you're going to a certain vertical, DeFi, gaming, infrastructure, ask yourself, what is the market size? How crowded is it? What is the market's growth rate? What are the average profit margins? What do I think I can charge? And remember, what you can charge is solely based upon your differentiating factors, right? The more different you are, the more value you add that other people don't add, is the amount that you can charge, both in terms of volume of usage and in terms of profit per volume, right? So then you need to ask about your competitive landscape, right? How many competitors are there? How much market share do they have? What are their competitive advantages? Talk about your capabilities. How much better am I than the incumbents? Am I 20% better? Right? If you're 20% better, you're probably more of like a corporate like improvement process than you are a likely candidate for a venture-backed startup, right? Like if you are 100 times, 1,000 times better, very cool. 10x better, maybe a VC will find you interesting. It depends on your vertical, but you really want to find 100x plus better capability gap as a VC. You need to ask yourself all these questions, right? Like profitability, like in a bear market, how long will it take to break even? And you need to ask yourself this because right now a lot of companies are folding because they can't support their business and they can't fundraise again. So you need to ask yourself, like, if we hit a bull market, everything will be great, we'll make money. But in a bear market, if we can't fundraise again, will we be able to keep this company going until we hit another bull or until we really hit product market fit and take off on that J curve growth? So these are all questions you need to ask yourself, and they're super important. Rule number 3, right? We need to start building. When you're, do your hackathon project and immediately start building. To me, as a VC, nothing is more important than building. And coming out of that hackathon, you probably have a lot of momentum. So start fleshing out that vision, and work on fleshing out the vision that you've detailed in your strategy session. If you are very disciplined, you can probably build in parallel with fundraising, but it's usually very tough to do, right? Fundraising can be a 6 to 8 hour a day process. So maybe you'll get 2 to 4 hours on the side, and then you need 2 to 4 hours of like putting the business together, doing the legals, blah, blah, blah. There's so much to do in the beginning. And I need to tell you that as an investor, I get turned off when pre-seed companies focus too much on fundraising. I want proof that you work hard. I want proof that you are just not looking for another job. Like how do I know that you just aren't some person who just doesn't want to work in a corporate environment? Maybe you can't work in a corporate environment. Maybe you aren't actually a good leader. You're just someone who's like upset with having to work with others, right? So I want proof that you can work. So start building right away. In crypto, you're going to get a lot of inbound interest, right? If you really build something that's truly differentiated, you're going to get a lot of inbound interest. And during a bull market, you might get inbound interest whether you have built something differentiated or not. And so, people who might give you some of this inbound interest, right? It's advisors, it's consultants, it's VCs. And so one good way to kind of filter out people is you need to figure out who is truly a believer, right? And people will let you know that in their first one or two conversations with you. Some people, their nature, their communication style may be more guarded, but they should probably still let you know that they are interested and they want to add value to your project. And focus on those people. Don't focus on the people who are like leeches, right? Stay away from them. You can get back to them later. Like if they can be useful, but not today, get back to them later. Now we have to talk about incorporation, right? So as a crypto startup, what people have traditionally done, and this is born out of regulation or fear of regulation, right, is you will likely need two entities, and one to do software development and one to steward the ecosystem. And this is usually a non-US foundation. And so I put up here an example of the Hero network on Solana, right? So Hero is a Hero software company, and then the Hero network, which is the, stewards the ecosystem, the token, etc. I recommend you seek out good legal help to accomplish this. And just like anything else in life, always get 3 bids, right? Interview 3 lawyers. Make sure they have the capacity. Make sure they have the expertise. Understand the difference in pricing. Then you need to start onboarding your banking partners because not everyone takes crypto. You need to get your payroll and operation systems working, right? Bookkeeping, accounting, all of that. Get that ready. Then it's time to do the fundraise, right? So we need, I don't know where here it is. Okay. So we want you guys to understand the dynamics of fundraising, right? And so I put this little fun meme up, right? For those of you who know who this is, it's Russ Hanneman from Silicon Valley, a very famous TV show documenting startup life in Silicon Valley. And so, we'll play that in a second, but you need to understand what's the difference between funds and angels. So outside of crypto, usually it's a thing about 40 or 50 to 1. So angels typically only allocate 5 to 10% of their portfolio to VC, maybe up to 20% of their portfolio to VC stuff, whereas funds are 100% VC. So a $40 million fund compared to an angel with 10% is basically, means that angel would have to be worth $400 million to be able to allocate 40 million to VC. And when you think about the fact that most people don't deploy that 40 million in 1 year, they deploy it over 2 or 3 years, right? So it's really more like, I don't know, call it 13 million per year that they're deploying, right? And it would be the same with that angel. So even if this person's worth $400 million, they're probably only deploying at most 13 million in a given year. And the same for the fund. But at least that fund, all 40 is going to VC stuff. You need to know current pricing in the market. We already discussed this. You need to understand that in the financial press or in the tech press, you normally don't get coverage for the solution you're building because it's highly likely you'll fail. 80% of crypto startups or all startups fail. And so what you do get pressed for is the fundraise, because that fundraise is a tangible KPI that the press can point to that says there's something here. We're going to now let the world know about it. And as they continue to build, if they actually build something big, then we'll cover them more frequently. But for now, the tech press will only cover you for your fundraise in general. Now, for those of you who remember this scene, right? It's internet over radio, and he's literally telling his founders that he invested into that they don't want revenue. They want to be a pure play, right? Never ever achieve revenue, because then people start putting multiples on your revenue and it takes your valuation down. And so I put this here as a joke, right? You at some point need to start making revenue, because revenue is literally the way we quantify the amount of value you provide, right? Because if people aren't paying you, then you don't know if they would actually use your service or if they're just doing it because it's free. And so revenue is literally the quantification of value you provide. So once you've done all this, you've fundraised, etc., you've got a corporate strategy, you've got a corporate structure, you've got service providers, you've got investors, it's time to grow. And as a VC-backed startup, it's not just a little growth, right? You're not searching for 1x growth every year. It's time to shoot for the moon. You've got to hit that J curve. And we call it a J curve because in the beginning, it might be slow, and then you get this fundraising, and then you find product market fit, and you need to have this super high slope, right? And it's that inflection point. You need to figure out how you're going to hit 1,000% year-over-year growth. You need to write job descriptions out. You need to get them on job boards, get your MVP out, start testing in production. Because right now, the market is waiting for you to bring them something new and differentiated, right? So as I mentioned before, you're going to make a decision, you're going to create a strategy, you're going to manage inbound interest, focus on the people who are most immediately useful, you're going to build, you're going to incorporate, you're going to fundraise. And from that, then you're going to start to grow. So with that, I'm going to just thank everyone. We are going to open up for questions. I am not done, however. I do have another very brief deck to teach everyone how to create a pitch deck. So I do have another slide, a separate pitch deck, a separate PowerPoint focused on how to create a pitch deck. But we're going to end here for now, or take a pause as we transition between the two and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex. There is one question in the chat so far, and it's actually related to ecosystem alignment and whether or not, like how important as an investor do you see a project as getting support from like one particular ecosystem for, like maybe it's a core ecosystem project that's being supported quite heavily by a particular ecosystem versus something that's trying to be more multi-chain in general, maybe doesn't have, or more agnostic, just a general, core innovation to a particular business model or particular slice of Web3 ecosystem. Like, how do you evaluate them as an investor, and how do you see the importance of being like aligned with one or just two core ecosystems versus something more general?
Got it. So alignment is different from support, right? When I hear alignment, I hear this is a target market. You've identified where your users are. You've identified how much market share you can capture, and you're going after that. When I hear support, I hear that you're very close to the core foundation team. Maybe they're providing you with engineering support, like phone calls, whatever. Maybe their engineers are actually helping you write your code. Maybe you're getting grants from them. Maybe you're doing regular strategy calls. Maybe they are doing co-marketing with you. So I think that the latter is sort of important, right? These grants, engineering support, that's helpful. I don't think that it's necessary. But the former, right, which is you've done analysis, you know where your customers are, you know how to reach them, you know what the pain points they're facing. That is number one. That is of primary importance.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Appreciate it.
I don't see any other questions at this point, so I think we can move forward with your other deck for now. But if there are any other questions, I'll flag them.
All right, guys. So give me a second. I've got to pull up this other deck. Okay. All right. All right, guys. So this is how to structure your pitch deck. It's down and dirty. It's quick. It's easy. Right. So this is it. So, first of all, do not create a very long deck. One of the things that we as VCs index you on is how well do you know your problem? And one of the ways in which we identify that is we analyze how cogently you can communicate the problem and the solution, right? So I try to tell people no more than 15 slides, ideally 12. And that 12 includes an intro and outro. And if you say, oh, we can't do that, blah, 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 we need 25 or 30 slides, that just means you're not thinking about the product problem hard enough and you haven't distilled it down to the most core concepts that need to be communicated. Max 15, ideally 12, right? You're an early stage startup. And I would say this probably holds true until like Series B, maybe Series C. So that title slide, the intro slide, include a very short summary of your project. Shoot for 5 words, right? If you need 8, Go for 8. Shoot for 5 words. The core is that you need to be able to very cogently summarize what your project does on the title slide. The next is, an intro slide. It gives you some context. It really focuses on the why, right? Then you start talking about the problem. What is the problem? And the next slide should map almost directly to the problem. And the next slide should be the solution, right? And so this is going to talk about both the how. So how do you solve the problem? And why? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you know this to be true, etc. Then you can talk about your fundraise, right? And so some of these are a little flexible, right? Maybe you don't have a valuation yet, right? Valuation should be set by the lead. But you should, maybe you want to keep the amount you're fundraising off for competitive reasons. That's fine. But you definitely need to talk about how you're going to use the funds, right? Your product roadmap, your corporate strategy growth roadmap, things of that nature. You're going to want to talk about your tokens and your tokenomics a bit, right? And so then you're going to want to talk about, then next you're going to want to talk about the team. Why is this the team to build and execute on this project? Why should the investors have confidence in the team? Why should investors believe that this team understands the pain points, that this team understands the solution and can build that solution? So if you just have your slide, your name, and then some logos at the bottom, that's not enough, right? We need to know why this is the team. And then you should have an outro slide that just thanks everyone, just like I did before, right? I said, thanks, any questions. You should also put your contact information on there. So I've been remiss in not putting my contact information on mine, but like just on this slide, normally we would say, thanks, any questions, and then have contact information below. I don't do that because on these slides, because usually it's provided separately by the hackathon participants, but that's something that I should be doing as well, and you should do. So this is how to structure your pitch deck. You might say, oh, but you only have 7 numbers, and then you've got like 6 bullets, right? So, and 7 plus 6, that's 13, that's not 12. So like I mentioned, some of these are flexible, right? Some of these will be condensed into others, but basically every number, every bullet is a slide. On the fundraise, right, number 5, you might combine 2 of them, 2 or 3, and so you might end up with 11 slides. You might end up with 12. But this is the structure, tried and true. It works very well. Any questions?
No questions in the chat that I can see, but I think it's a pretty poignant point. It's kind of similar to when you want your first job out of college and your resume should be like no longer than a page. And it's not really until you're, much further down your career where you have a more extensive CV. So I think that would be the analogy that I would use from my perspective as well.
Great. Yeah. Cogent, just be cogent.
Cool. So I actually don't see any other questions in the chat at this time. But as I mentioned at the beginning, this will be recorded and will be available asynchronously for all of the participants of the hackathon, as well as anyone who's interested in general. You'll be able to find this recording both on the DoraHacks website and on various social media accounts, and will be available for your use. And if you do have any questions and want to ask them asynchronously, please feel free to reach out to me and the DoraHacks team, and Alex as well. Alex, if anyone ends up having any questions, after this workshop has been recorded and distributed, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you with any questions, or Delphi Digital in general, I suppose?
Yeah, so we are at Delphi Digital on Twitter, and I'm at Helped Hope, HELPEDHOPE on Twitter. So feel free to DM me.
Excellent. Thank you
or
so
just
much.
Tweet at me directly. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a great day. And yeah, looking forward to doing more of these with you guys. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to present. We're very excited about the opportunity to host this Atom Accelerator Hackathon on DoraHacks. And of course, one of the biggest parts of any hackathon is how much adoption you can fuel, even in addition to, innovations and hackathon projects. We always feel it's important to host, various content for developers. So we really appreciate you contributing to that, Alex, today, and coming on and helping us create a very robust schedule of programming for the Cosmos community. It's very important. So we're glad to have yourself and Delphi, on board and align with us in that mission. It means a lot. So thank you so much for your time today, and everyone in the audience who joined and everyone who will watch us in the future. Thank you so much for your attention and participation as well.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Cheers.
Right, everyone.
Bye.